So I'm going to demonstrate today about doing condition report photography. There's lots of different ways to do it. Today I'm just focusing on photographs and two very common lighting setups and other things to include when doing condition report photography. So I'm starting with a very basic lighting setup, which is two lights aimed 45 degrees down at your object. And you want to make sure that whatever surface you're using is as neutral as possible. So in this case we have just an ugly wooden table. It's got a number of marks and things. So I'm covering it up with a piece of white mat board. So again, it's very clean and representation of the object. So we're starting with, again, this is lighting setup number one. So we have the object that we're setting sort of mid-range in between, and there's a few things that you should have in your view when you're doing your setup. Your camera essentially should hopefully be above, shooting down at your object. If that's too difficult, if you're using if your object is too large, I mean, you could have this set up on the floor and stand above and go down and stand on a chair, same thing. Or it's also very common to do condition reporting on a plate rail. So again, you would have your objects upright, you aim your lights towards it, and then your camera would be in front. So I use gloves for doing a condition report photography for my setup. Again, I have an object, but not only that, I'm using targets. And I am very big, because of the cost of targets, to make sure that you are very careful about having the oils from your hands touch the targets, because you want them to last for as long as possible. Thank you, you read my mind. Oh, look at this, the miracle of doing demonstrations and things appear. So we're going to talk a little bit about targets very quickly and what is used. So a target essentially gives example of proper colors that are true, that you can use to calibrate, especially for digital images, or get a sense of what the real color of an object is. So I have two very common ones here just to show. So we have a color and a grayscale. These are Kodak ones. These have been around forever, and I bet they're probably 30, 40 years old. It wouldn't surprise me. So again, these are very common, but they're in very good shape because, again, of how they are handled. The more newer ones that people are using, and by the way, finding them, these small ones, are really hard. Ooh, Mike Robinson, now we know who belongs to. And these are made by X-Rite. And you tend to see these ones more, the X-Rite color checkers, for digital applications. Again, they have a larger color range to them. These also come in different sizes. These are the smallest, and as I said, they're the hardest to find. If you're able to find and purchase them this small, definitely do, because otherwise they can be quite large. So these are a mixture of grayscale and color, which is also quite nice. The other ones I'm going to show are ones that are specifically created for doing photographic condition reports, and these were produced by AIC. So American Institute of Conservation, and you can buy them through the AIC website. I only have two of the three sizes today. This is the bebe. Okay, just a tube fell, don't worry about it. And this is the larger, or the medium size, excuse me. So what's really nice about this particular target is that it integrates your color swatches, as you see on these ones. It has a scale for size, so sometimes you would have a ruler in place. It's not uncommon. It can be bulky, depending on the number of things that you want to document. But what is really significant about this target is this centerpiece. And what it is a pin, a little pinhead, on a circle. And what this shows is the angle of light that is used for documentation. So what you see here in this particular demo is, because we have normal light, you have the pinhead, and then you have two shadows, right? So it clearly shows what the light is doing as you are doing your documentation, which these don't cover. So because of this is my favorite target. So as I said, these come in 3 sizes. The larger one is about this long, so you can get them as a set or buy them individually and go from there. Okay? Everybody's clear? Okay, so for the sake of my demo, I'm going to put aside these other ones, and I'll work with the small one. Well, I can work with the medium one. It's a good one. The other thing that's nice, I don't know if you can capture it here, that I also quite like, but we're going to show it on another surface, is that you see here it has this like weird little tray that sticks up. It's also on this little baby one. And that
like a Z tray.
It's like a Z tray. And that is for capturing information that you could use about what's going on in your photographs. So in addition to having your object, so I'll face this now towards you, okay? You only need one target. You also want to show what exactly you're capturing. So in this case, we're capturing the recto, and we're showing normal light, okay? So to make life easy, these are just on little pre-printed cards. You could write them out every time. And then hopefully you want to include some information about your particular object so you have an idea of what you're looking at. So you can have a little dummy card prepped up, or you can have information about your object, the date of what you're doing, and any sort of container information you want to include. If you are doing a number of these, I just included this one is from a totally different object. It's actually from I think it's from a map, but you can have everything pre-printed. So in this case, it would have all your reference information, title. This one was after an exhibit or an after treatment, and the date that the photograph was done. So if you're doing a lot of them, you can include all this information in, okay? So once you had your object and all this stuff, it's a lot of information to include. In this case, I'm not putting in my collection information. We'll make it simple. So hopefully everybody knows that recto is the front and verso is the back. So you would do recto, flip your object, switch out for the verso card, take your image, okay? So that is lighting setup number 1. You can keep on the camera. So what I want to demonstrate is the other type of lighting that I like to use, and that's raking light. So raking light is where you shut off one light source and you lower, I'll do this one across, a bit more. Okay, so what this does is if you look at the target, again we're back to this pin, you should have a longer shadow on one side, okay? And what this does is that it accentuates any sort of cockling or image issues where you would see it on the cross section that you wouldn't catch if you had 45-degree light. So this is an example of a crinkled photograph, and we had this one on purpose because I wanted to show all these, effects in the photograph, okay? So in this case, we have the recto and raking light. Again, if you really want to accentuate it further, I'm going to see if I can lower this a little bit more. Not really in this demo, but hopefully you get the idea. So the longer the light is across, you can see the more effects that you have on your object. So again, you're doing this from above. We've changed the sign to raking, recto, we flip it over, put your verso in, click, and there you go. And you can see more on the back. And it really becomes evident when you see the two photographs, like the normal light and the raking light beside each other, that the differences that you'll see. If you don't have a lot of issues, your images will look very, very similar. But again, the more handled your object is, the more you'll see. Right, and that's it for me.